Hey y'all, welcome to Reading Lens, where we yap about romance books and fangirl over our favorite authors. I'm Holly.
And I'm Jordan, and today we're yapping with Ash, who is informally known as the Professor of Omegaverse, and Vinny George, one of my favorite Omegaverse authors. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Before we start to chat about those things, are there what are your top Omegaverse books and or series, like personally as a reader? Whoever wants to go
I feel like
first.
the professor of Omegaverse needs to take it
Ash,
first.
Absolutely.
please
Okay.
take
I'm
it
gonna
from
I'm
the
gonna put you
top.
on
I
the
will go
spot,
forth.
Ash.
Yes.
If I had to pick a favorite series, well, first of all, this is the worst question you could possibly ask me because I just have such a wide variety of interests within the Omegaverse that it's like I don't know how I'm supposed to pick.
Give us
But
a
if I
top
had to,
three of different
Yeah.
types.
okay. So
Is
I
that
think
easy?
in terms of series, I think the Cozy Verse by Eliana Lee and Amelia Emerson is just done so well. I love that they've co-authored it. I love the world that they created. It's fantastic. In terms of just like standalone books, I would say um probably Alpha Kings by Ro Horvat because I'm obsessed.
It's so good.
Bond Runner by JT Lee and probably Whisked Away by Enola Douglas, which is the only fantasy romance Omegaverse I've ever read, and it's stuck with me for like a year now, so it's definitely a favorite.
Wait, can we go back to that one? I want to write it down.
Yeah,
What was it
it's
called?
Whisked Away, and the author is Enola Douglas.
And you said it's a
Holly,
fantasy Omegaverse?
Yeah, it's a fantasy romance Omegaverse.
Holly, we need to list out all the books mentioned in every episode and the
Oh,
caption for
really?
this from now on. I think
Because
we
we
have
have
to
so
do that.
many.
We have so many.
We have
Okay, Vinny,
we
go.
have so many.
So I came to Omegaverse via Egg Preg.
As one
Egg
does.
Preg. As one does. And still it is my favorite series, which is the Forbidden Desire series by Piper Scott and Virginia Kelly. There was a point where I would drop into book rec groups and be like, "Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, the Megs?" Because it
As you
was
should.
um it was just like it became my entire personality. Everyone who would listen to me, I'm like, "You need to read this. You need to read this." As
Including
Jordan well
me.
knows, because
Yes.
I was like, "No, no, no. Have you met Piper? Have you read this yet?" So,
Yes.
and then after I got into the egg preg world, I mean, there's only a couple places that you go next, and one of them was Amy Bellows' Pebble Gifters series,
Yes.
Penguins and Polar Bears, and a little fisting action. I mean, how can you not? Um, and then I kind of spiraled back into more contemporary Omegaverse, and where there's not necessarily shifting and there's not necessarily eggs. Um, and that I love Piper's Omegaverse. Like I just love the way she writes it. So so my other top would be the Single Dad Support Group.
Wait, okay. I have a very specific question because I want to know because I have a favorite. So I kind of just want to know everyone's from the Forbidden Desire series because it's so big, right? Like the spinoff and it's huge. Who is your favorite? Like, which one is your favorite?
That's
On
a
the
really
spot,
hard
sorry.
question. Oh, there are parts that live rent free in my head from all of the books. I feel like probably Clutch is my favorite. I think
Okay.
like it's hard the
It's
OG and
fun when
like
they
you don't
don't
really know what you're
know.
getting into.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think that's probably the favorite. Though I do mm, I no, I'm going to stick with Clutch. I'm going to stick with Clutch.
I
Final
love
answer.
it. With conviction. Ash, have you read that one? Do you have
I
opinions on
haven't. I have not.
No. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior the Megs?
I have heard about it. I have not entered the church yet.
Oh, please come in. This
You're
is a
right on the
great side to be
outside.
on. It will change the way you look at the color purple.
It
Um,
does.
Oh.
Truly, truly, you will not be able to look at shades of purple without being like, "Oh, would that be a lavender? That's definitely an amethyst. Are you a
Magenta.
wisteria?" Like, because it's the amethyst clan, so there is a ton of different purple that permeates the books. And seriously, I'm like, what would that be considered? Is that the color of Chaucer? Would you say? Um, anyway, you'll read it and then you'll be like,
Yes.
"Oh, I get it. I get it. I understand."
You'll get it.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Holly, what is your
Jordan.
favorite Omegaverse? Oh, did you just ask
Oh,
me?
well, no, I want to know what your favorite Forbidden Desires book is.
Oh, what mine is? I've only read the first
Yeah.
3.
Oh,
I I'm
she
getting
hasn't
back
been
to it,
baptized into the church.
I I've read 3 of them. Favorite is also probably Clutch because of all of the, like,
Okay,
no one knows what's going on, and you also don't know what's going on
that's fair.
initially, and I think that's fun.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Okay, Holly, favorite
No,
Omegaverse, go.
well, my favorite from that series is Bond
Uh,
because I
oh,
love
I meant in
Everard.
general your
Yeah.
favorite. Bond is also really good.
Oh, okay. Oh, my favorite in general. Hold on, I have a list. Recently, Overeager by Gray Bryan.
That book
Stunning
is
student
amazing.
teacher.
Yes,
Stunning. Um,
hardcore, so good.
top read of last year, Feral by Alessandra Hazard.
Yes,
What I would
that
give for
series
more books in that
is
series.
yes. Hopefully there'll be more
I would
surprise
risk it
books.
all for more books in that series.
I don't binge
Um,
read anything, and I read all of those in a week. Maybe less. I don't know.
because they're so easy to read. Like
They're so easy to
they're
read.
like sugar. I think you just have to
Yeah,
consume them.
so
Um,
good.
I read a book. It's called Not Mine by Alice LaRue. Have you all read that one?
I've not read it, but it's been on my TBR for
Not
a
with a
while.
K.
Not with a K. The second one comes out this month. And it was my, like, guiltiest pleasure. I read it in one sitting, and I never that's not something that I do because 'cause I'm all over the place. Um, and one that I don't hear talked about very often is The Meadowfall Firefighters by Anna Weinhardt. They're, like, older. They kind
Mhm.
of get forgotten because 'cause they're, like, the first
I've
book in
never heard of
her.
that before.
Mhm.
It's about this guy, and he falls from his bathtub, and he's playing with a giant dildo because he makes giant dildos, and that's how the firefighter finds him. It's so good. Again, it's Michael Ferriola.
Yup.
Like, we lost Jordan. Jordan, come back. Oh no, we really lost Jordan. That's never happened before. She's having a rough day. No, but I really do love that series and all of her like spin-offs from it. Because I feel like anytime you go to the like Omegaverse Impreg Facebook group, it's always Anna Weinhardt.
Oh, yeah, because she's written
Like
more books than.
110
Yeah.
or something crazy like that.
Well, and she was one of the original, like, she really started with Susie Hawk and all those guys. I mean, all those folks. They're like the OGs, Nora Phoenix
Yeah.
and
Love I do
that whole
love Nora
crew.
Phoenix books. I recently did all of the audiobooks for the oh my gosh.
Irresistible Omegas.
Uh-huh. The whole series in like a month. I just all of them. That was life-changing.
Yeah, that series, again, parts of it that live rent free in my head forever. Like, you
Oh.
just.
Yeah. Like but I also really enjoy Nora's writing. Where were we? We were talking about the dildo in the bathtub.
Oh, okay, cool.
In record.
Should we jump to the questions?
Did you
Now,
answer what your favorites were?
oh, what my favorite is? Well,
Yeah.
I love Vinny's. I love Vinny's Land and Sea series. It's all different marine shifters and land or air shifters. It's
Cool.
very fun and unique. And then I love all of Lita Blake's Omegaverse, all of them, just in general. And then Wrong Alpha series by Alexander Hazard. I just like devoured it. It was Yeah, it's like candy. Like, you
Oh,
can't have
good.
just one. Yeah, they're all really good. Oh, and Whiskey and Sin by Emily Rath is, like, what I tell people to start with. If you didn't know that she wrote an omegaverse, it is quite good and very, very different from anything else that she's written. It is it is not the same vibes as Pucking Around.
I would like for her to do more Omegaverse, actually. Is she doing
I
it?
would
She's doing
love
another
for
one, isn't she?
I think she's talked about it, but I haven't seen anything actually, like, out there,
Mm.
but she's talked about it. Um, okay, so first questions first. Since you've joined this episode and we've already talked about a bunch of Omegaverse books and stuff, let's let's define what Omegaverse is if you don't know. Are there certain things that define a book as Omegaverse rather than simply paranormal romance? And I know that Ash has a very good detailed answer for this. So if you want to start, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So I think at its this is such a complicated question, which is how I end up making so much content about it. But if I had to like narrow it down to just a sentence, I'd say Omegaverse is a subgenre of paranormal romance in which the characters have designations. Now that brings up the question, what is a designation? Basically, designation is just like the umbrella term for the different identities within the Omegaverse. And designations have like defining characteristics that determine how a character interacts with society at large and with each other, and define a character's biological makeup, their secondary sex characteristics, their dominance, and their place within society. Um, so really, if a book has designations and it's something that's more than just a title of authority, like you might see in a shifter book, like the alpha of a shifter clan is typically like the leader of that clan. Whereas in Omegaverse, if you're an alpha, that's kind of akin to saying like I'm a man or I'm a woman or I'm pansexual. It's part of their identity, not so much part of their role within a hierarchy, if that makes any sense.
No, that actually, I like that because that was a question that I'd actually had, like, personally. So, because I was like, because in like a shifter book, it's always they refer to them as alphas, and like in my brain, I'm like, oh, is this going to like? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
if I don't know what's going on, I hear alpha, and I'm like, oh, perfect, it's Omegaverse, but that's not like
Yeah.
always the case. Um,
Different kind of
so
alpha.
right, and I do get those confused. So, how exactly did this subgenre of the Omegaverse, like, how did it happen? Like, how did this develop? Whose
I've
idea
heard the
was this?
term.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
did
so
this
I've
come
heard
from?
the
Because it's
term.
so different. Or
Who did it?
first,
It
go
is different, but if you break apart Omegaverse, you can see that it's really just a conglomeration of a lot of the greats that came before it. Like sci-fi media, paranormal romance of the 90s, Star Trek has a huge influence on Omegaverse. But really what kind of like made the perfect storm is, in the early or well, it'd be like the 2010s. Paranormal media was kind of like on an uprise. There was all sorts of paranormal media between, like the Vampire Diaries, Supernatural, just tons and tons of media. And I joke that everything about the Omegaverse goes back to Supernatural, but it's really not a joke. Um, the fanfic writers in the Supernatural fandom in 2010 started kind of piecing together this idea of like, how can we ship the two actors that play the main characters of the show Supernatural in a way that's, how would I say this? In a way that makes sense within like a queer landscape. And by borrowing from other things, they kind of created the Omegaverse. I think one of the original prompts, it was asking for like a fan fiction that featured the two actors, and the one thing that they wanted was, quote, dog like sex. Well, how do you do that? You add a not. So that's kind of how things started.
So supernatural, the supernatural pipeline, supernatural to impreg pipeline.
Yeah,
That's how we got here.
That's right.
basically, it's like
Okay.
how can we make them have a baby?
Of course.
I think you definitely can't talk about the Omegaverse, and you certainly can't talk about Mpreg without talking about fan fiction. I mean, they like that is really the origin story, um, villain or otherwise, that really kicked off the Omegaverse, um, and kind of especially Mpreg.
Yeah.
So was it like truly just shipping different actors from different fandoms?
Sometimes, like with the supernatural fandom, the actors in the show, they're brothers. So obviously they weren't shipping the characters, but they were shipping the actor. Well, I'm sure there were some people shipping the characters, but we don't need to get into that.
That's a different
But
episode.
there were,
Yeah, that's
yeah, there
that's a
were,
different
It's a
podcast.
different episode.
yeah. Different subgenre entirely. But I mean, like there were other really prevalent fandoms in the early Omegaverse, like Marvel, like shipping Marvel characters. That was really huge in the early Omegaverse and Mpreg communities. So it's just, honestly, what it comes down to is a bunch of nerds having fun, which is how everything great gets started. So, you know,
Oh my God.
Can we go back to the Star Trek comment?
sure.
Um, could you explain how the Star Trek to Omegaverse pipeline works? Because I'm
Well,
not a
I
Star
think we
Wars
need,
kid, so I
so
don't know.
yes. So it's Star Trek,
Okay.
which to talk about fan fiction, you have to talk about Star Trek
Okay.
because Star Trek is basically what streamlined fan fiction. Because the original show kind of ended in a really weird spot and left a lot of fans like super unhappy with the plot line. And
Okay.
so people were literally writing their own stories and mailing them to each other in like the 60s. And then they was started, I mean, like the idea of like a con, like a convention, was started by Star Trek people who would meet up and share their fan fictions with each other.
That's
So you
crazy.
can't talk about any of this without talking about Star Trek.
That's
But specifically with Omegaverse, one thing that we like to point at is that the idea of like heat and mates and stuff like that can kind of be attributed to the Vulcan mating cycle Pon Far, because they go through a lot of the same like massive hormonal shifts and almost like a heat-like mating cycle. So yeah, I mean Star Trek is she's just that girl, she's
she
very
is that
important.
girl.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important she is to so many things that I love.
the,
Like
the more you know.
the more you know.
The more you know. Um, okay. So, this is something I notice when I read Omegaverse, but I don't know where this comes from, and I really don't know the answer to this question at all. What are some common themes in Omegaverse that you don't see as often in other subgenres? Like a lot of them are, I mean, there's like the omega centers or whatever, and they've like gotten sent out to mates and they hate them and they've got to like I don't know, there's just certain, there's a lot of like arranged matings or arranged marriages, um stuff like that. Anything you got along those lines?
I think it kind of depends on the subgenre of Omegaverse that you're writing within. You know, if you're writing contemporary, if you're writing post-apocalyptic, it kind of also depends on where your lore for how you ended up, especially in Mpreg, because
Yeah.
I'm not super well versed in Omegaverse outside of Mpreg. That's really my wheelhouse. Um, but I feel like it really kind of depends on where you're centering your lore,
Hmm.
and kind of what you do with it. For me, it's been a really a lot of thematic things that have stood out to me are ways to have conversation about women
Oh
without
yeah.
I
having
wrote
them
that
in
down
the
too.
story. And I really feel like, it's um that's been really kind of fun to play with in terms of, when you take the damsel in distress ideology out of the story, um, and you kind of are able to say, okay, in a world where there are no women that give birth, or if in a world where women aren't the only ones who give birth,
Mhm.
what does that look like and how does that affect, prenatal health care? How does that affect an adoption cycle when, when you're dealing with a primary gender, a male primary gender? What does that, how it just gives you a lot of things to play with in terms of gender discussion that's in my work thinly veiled. But I don't know, and I think that really stands out to me among, other people's writing too. And maybe it's because it's something I'm personally looking for when I read Omegaverse, but I feel like that's something that I think, we don't play with as much in, your standard romance that doesn't have the Omegaverse element.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly
that's
what I
so
wrote
fun.
down. Yeah, I wrote down commentary on women's rights through the lens of Omega rights, systematic oppression of an entire class of people,
Mm,
unique takes on fated mates, found family, more prevalence of waichus and polyamorous relationships. Although I will say that's getting more common in contemporary romance, but
Mhm.
there for a while, it's like you could only find polyamory in Omegaverse.
oh, yeah.
And then gender flexibility. That's my
Mhm.
personal favorite thing about Omegaverse because, like, you take gender out of your biological body. Um, and that's been really good for me personally to read. That's why I love it so much.
Yeah, I
Because
agree. And
you
I
can
think
play with all of that.
for sure. And I think there's also um I think one of the questions that comes that we're going to touch on a little bit later is, is Omega verse inherently queer? And I would argue very strongly that it is, because you're looking at gender through kind of a dual lens,
Mhm.
and so you can kind of subvert and play with different aspects of gender. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, a male to female transition or a non-binary aspect. You can also play with that in terms of, trans omegas or trans alphas or trans betas or people who choose to forsake a secondary gender altogether. And so I think that also opens up some opportunity to discuss trans rights through a
Mhm.
different lens um, that you don't really get outside of the Omegaverse because, trans rights are incredibly serious. And when those are being tackled in contemporary romance, there's an expectation that they be handled with um, the weight with which they should be handled, right? And I'm not saying that we don't do that in Omegaverse. I think we just get to make commentary, pro-trans commentary in a much deeper way, much different way.
When
Do you
you're
feel like you
dealing
get
with,
to
like,
be bolder with it? Sorry.
I do. I feel like, there are things that can be said in the Omegaverse, especially around secondary gender, that I think if we tried to do that in trans contemporary fiction, romance or otherwise, it would be we would be asked how we can be an authority on it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Versus putting it in the Omegaverse and being able to say, this is how people should be treated regardless of how they choose to identify. I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility there to make these like broad statements that then can impact the entire Omegaverse world that you're writing in versus, we're stuck within societal constraints when we're writing contemporary,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
because you're frequently dealing with
I love that.
a queer normative worlds. Like, usually Omegaverse
Yep,
is queer normative, and you can do whatever. You can make it your ideal world.
exactly.
Never
Did we
thought
get
about
too
any of
deep?
this
Did we get
before.
too deep too early? Did we
I lo
maybe
Yeah, we went deep really early. That's
no,
okay. We have fun questions later.
but this one really does tie into the next question, like, really well, because it's like, so in your opinions, why do people love Omegaverse so much? Why do certain people love Impreg so much? Like, why do people
And why do
dislike
some
it?
people
Like,
dislike it? Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I won't read Impreg."
yeah,
That's
uh,
and why do people dislike it. Do you
I
guys
don't
like
understand, but
thoughts?
Well, so
Well,
I think
yeah, go ahead.
people like it, especially female readers, especially again, I'm going to couch everything from kind of the MPreg lens. And this is how and I think Jordan, this is how when I introduced my books to you when we met for the first time is I like to think of MPreg as feminist catharsis. That there is a
yes.
world where I get to put men through some shit and watch them react to the way that it it falls out, you know? And I think, you know, there's like my birth scenes like are are a little
They're
detailed
amazing. Yes.
because well, because I want to put them through it a little bit because it makes me feel better having, you know, as a mom, like it makes me feel better knowing that like in this world, this is how my husband would react to this. You know, and it's not always it's not always super flattering. And you know, I also like to think about you know, kind of on the flip side of that, I like to think of, you know, if there was a world where men had to carry on the species, like how would that look? You know, and so I feel like that's kind of those are the things that go through my head when I'm writing. And that's why it draws me to other MPreg stories, is just the way that kind of that idea gets handled. And I really do feel like, you know, for me personally, it's just been cathartic to kind of put that kind of a world on the page. In
So
terms of
what
why
I'm
people
hearing
hate
is
it, I feel like people think it's weird and that, you know, the big question that everyone always wants to know is where do the babies come out? Right? Like that's the big question. And I
I
feel like
think
that's the part that takes the most for people to wrap their head around, which is why I think egg preg going back to this topic, why I think egg preg is actually not a bad starting place, because it really gives you I mean, you think about the way a chicken lays an egg, there's only one place it's coming out of, right? I mean, and so that kinda gives you some conceptual understanding then when you go into a contemporary world, you know, gives you the context for where the babies come out.
there are less questions.
There are a
Yes,
lot
Could
less
you
it's
questions.
clear.
there are
I
less
don't think
It's
egg
questions.
clear.
prig is a bad jumping off point.
What I heard from Vinny on that explanation was that Omegaverse books to her are like those period cramp machines that they put on men
1,000%.
in book form.
1,000%. Yes, MPreg is is the is the literary is the literary
The
period cramp
literary
machine.
I
The
love
labor
that.
simulator, 100%.
Ash, what about you?
Ash, what are your thoughts?
Oh gosh. So I think the reason people like Omegaverse, I think is kind of like a twofold answer. On the one side, I think that as a genre, it's just kind of inherently cozy. Like
Yes.
even the like darkest
Caretaking.
Omegaverses I've read still have so much care
Yes.
and, you know, like spoiling and stuff. So I think for some people it's like a comfort because the genre in and of itself is kind of comfy. Um, I also think that there's a lot to be said for people that like to explore stories that do play on things like the gender binary and stuff like that. And then we just also can't ignore that Omegaverse is just horny. Like it's just super horny.
Yes.
And the
Yeah,
smut is kind of unmatched. So, like,
This
if
is
that's your
true.
thing, it's hard to beat. It's really hard to beat. Um, in my experience, people dislike Omegaverse for a few reasons. I've heard that one of the main complaints is they don't want to read Omegaverse because they don't read Why Choose. And then it's like, okay, well, then you can read a single pair Omegaverse. But then I hear a lot of they don't like how detailed and explicit the sexual content is. They don't like hearing about slick. They don't like hearing about, you know, copious amounts of semen, this kind of stuff. Um, or they
fair.
don't like MPreg, or they don't like the idea of designations, or they find it too intimidating to jump into, which is fair. I mean, I think once you get your toes in, it's not super duper hard, but
Mhm.
it can be kind of difficult to get your toes in. And like when I was in high school, Omegaverse was really like in its infancy on fan fiction sites, and there was like a huge stigma against people that wrote and read Omegaverse. It was kind of like
Wow.
You know how, like, people for a while, like, stigmatized people who read anime? It was, like, the
Yeah.
same vibe that if you read Omegaverse or wrote Omegaverse, you were, like, weird or whatever. So, I don't know, maybe people are bringing that into their lives today, I have no idea. Um, and then to just very quickly touch on MPreg, because I love everything you said. I do think people like it because it is, like you said, it's kind of like putting a magnifying glass on men and being like, "Hey man, like what would you do if this was you? Like this is our reality. What if it was your reality?" Um I have heard a lot of people criticize the idea of MPreg. And I think some of it is fair and I think some of it is, everybody has their own opinions. But one thing I wanted to bring up is especially because I like what you said about how we can use it to uplift and kind of diversify trans stories is that one of the main criticisms I hear is that the idea of potentially giving cis male characters the ability to have babies is actually trans erasure. And
Mm.
so, like, I think it's a double edged sword that, as long as you're telling the story, I think in a way that's inclusive, it's not necessarily a problem. And then this is maybe too deep. I don't know. You might end up editing this
Go
part
on.
out, but
We only edit if you
lately,
tell us to.
lately, okay, lately I have been hearing a lot of people talk about how MPreg is almost like perpetuating patriarchal womb envy. And it's like, because,
Oh,
the idea that the patriarchy is founded on the idea that men can't create life, so they created everything else to control life. And then, we're giving that power to cis male characters. I think that can be really hard for some people to read. And I think that's fair. I mean,
I can see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought I would bring in some other things I've heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's I don't know. I feel like it goes back to at the heart of it, MPreg is still romance, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like there's a lot of in some ways a lot of gatekeeping and policing that happens within the romance community when something different hits the scene or when people are talking about something different, and that there's always going to be this kind of pushback or this like we don't get it, we don't understand it, and so it kind of can get vilified a little bit. And I think that's where some of the conversation around oh, it's promoting the patriarchy. I'm like, really? Because I'm telling you right now that when that narwhal baby is born, there ain't no patriarchy in that room, my friend. Like, there are tears and there's nothing else. And anyway, uh, you can edit that part out if you want to. But the other thing, we didn't really touch on, but other than just to say, like the heat cycles and the smut,
Mm.
the big thing that I encountered a lot of when MPreg was kind of hitting its stride in 2016, 2017, was the idea of dubious consent, and that the omega in heat can't
Yeah.
Yes.
give full consent.
Yes.
And so I feel like that, people who are not here for dubious consent in any, dubcon in any way, um, find you take issue with that. And I think, really when we look at kind of the early MPreg stuff that was first coming out, I can see that line being kind of blurred um, as the genre was just kind of being explored. But I feel like recently, especially within the last, few years of MPreg, as especially more mainstream authors are starting to dip their toe in just to play with it and just to, um, use it as a creative outlet or as a social commentary for other things. I feel like consent has become such a central part of
Yes.
the MPreg world and the Omegaverse worlds. Like, yes, and I think it goes back to your point, Ash, about the caretaking and the coziness. Like, if I were to look through my books right now, I don't think that an alpha in any of my stories checks in with the omega less than like 10 times. Like, are
Yes.
you sure? Are you really sure? I mean, and sometimes to the point of like almost detriment to the omega in that they're holding
Yes.
back something that the omega needs, that the omega is
Hmm.
begging for, and the alpha is saying, "But are you sure? Are you really
You
sure? Because I
didn't
don't want to
you
step
couldn't
over a
consent.
line." And so So I do feel like I do feel like, there's been more conversation around that. And I do feel like some of that in and of itself is also social commentary too. Especially as, there's been more and more um, people people talking about their own um, experiences with assault. I feel like we've kind of used Omegaverse and MPreg to just kind of reinforce, like, here's a guy talking to another guy vehemently about consent. Um, so I feel like that's, been a positive thing within the
Oh,
MPreg community,
absolutely.
especially.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Hey, that
Oh,
was deep.
I just keep taking it too
Deep.
far. Guys,
Woo!
I
this is
love it.
normally not my
No.
MO, friends. Normally I am not the let's go into all the hard topics. No, I keep it light, my pastels, and I just keep taking us into
Don't
these, like, let's just hit it hard.
I
We're
love it
getting to the fun questions, and we
because
kind of
We keep saying that, Jordan.
I
they'll
know
get there.
they're coming, I
No, it's
swear.
nice because these aren't, as someone who picks up Omegaverse as a like palate cleanser typically, or like I'm in a slump, I pick them up for the cozy and the comfort. But like sitting here now, I'm like, dang,
It's
Yeah.
deep.
maybe I
So,
picked them up for
in my
other
opinion,
reasons.
yeah, in my opinion, Omegaverse is the most political genre I read.
Which would make sense. So,
I
100%.
Absolutely.
mean, seriously.
Absolutely.
and maybe, okay, so let me hypothetical for a second. Maybe subconsciously, I'm like, this is giving me a world, like a different political system. And it's giving like the things that we want. And maybe that's
An
why, like
ideal
in a
world.
moment of, oh, I don't know what to read, I'm like, give me this.
Yes. Yes.
Give me men who listen.
Yeah.
Who make you
And
soup
I feel
and
like,
give it to
I'm like, soup.
I feel like Holly and I kind of talked about this when we first got on the call about oh shoot, I've lost my train of thought. About another Instagrammer who, in light of the hantavirus situation, another dark topic for me, something new and different apparently for this conversation. Um, but in light of that and the press it was getting and people's PTSD, LMNOP from COVID, um,
Yeah.
she was like, "Well, okay, so what are we reading? What are we gonna read during this next pandemic?" I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. I'm not trying to make anybody panic, but my vote is for Omegaverse because you've
Yeah.
literally got all these different avenues that you can go down. You've got your
Mhm.
sci-fi Omegaverse, your paranormal Omegaverse, your MPreg, your eggpreg. I mean, literally, your contemporary. There's something for everyone. If you can't find it in
Yeah.
Omegaverse, you're not looking hard enough. Um, and so I just thought that was kind of funny. And I also feel like, to your point too, Holly, about, with the state of the world as it is, that idea of feeling cozy and taken care of, because I don't feel like right now any of us feel super cozy and taken care of by the broader world around us, especially if you're queer
Yeah.
identifying in any way. Um, and so I feel like there is like some peace in that, in that alternate social structure, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like.
I
I'm
love
writing that
this.
down for the title of this episode, just so you guys
This is
know.
like a psychology like a therapy session right now. Oh my gosh.
Well, and I do feel like there is a lot of psychology that goes into, especially Omegaverse, more so. I mean, I've written contemporary too, and contemporary, I feel like it's just like, I go in, I cut a slice of life, and I say, here we go. Like there's not. I don't think as much about contemporary when I'm writing contemporary. I don't think about these things as much as I do when I'm writing Omegaverse. Like, it
That makes
just.
sense.
I also don't think a lot about narwhal tusks and how they can be used as a dildo when I'm writing contemporary either.
So
But,
there's a lot of
I
dildos in
mean,
this
two
episode.
sides of the same coin, really, when you're talking about alternative society and narwhal tusk dildo. Same, two sides of the same coin.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We kind of handled, I think, the inherently queer question about Omegaverse. Or do we have more to say on that one before we move to our fun questions? Any more on
I mean, yeah, I agree.
it is
We
inherently
definitely
queer?
covered it. Like, I think if Yeah, if you're reading Omegaverse and you don't think it's queer, you're not reading it right.
Yeah, you're not doing it
And
right,
I would
for sure.
also just like to take a moment because, yeah, because I plug this every time I talk about it. So I just really quickly, I just wanted to say that Omegaverse is a safe space for queer readers and authors, and it needs to be treated as such. And that means in the comment sections and the Facebook groups and the group chats and everything else. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yes, yes, I
And
knew about that.
you can
But
not like it, and you're totally allowed to not like it, but don't yuck
Just
anyone else's yum.
just don't like
don't
it
yuck
over there.
anyone's yum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not over here.
Okay,
So loud.
Holly, you get to
Okay.
ask the
We have fun
first
questions.
of our fun questions.
I have been sitting here thinking about my answer to this. Okay. Let's start at the top. Vinny,
Uh-oh.
if you were an Omegaverse book character, what would your designation be and why?
Okay. This is gonna be bad. Um, and this is gonna tell you more about me than you ever really probably wanted to know. I would definitely say that I'm probably alpha in the streets, omega in the sheets, which will put me solidly somewhere around beta. So
Absolutely.
Perfect. Great
I'm
answer.
Absolutely.
solidly a beta. Let's call
Okay.
it what it is.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Ash,
Ash.
go.
Okay. So, okay. This is always a hard question because I feel like I am an omega with alpha tendencies. I think I'm very much an omega, but like, don't try me because I'm not
You're a
like just, I
feisty
don't, you know what I
omega.
mean?
Yeah, you're
I
a
am a
feisty
feisty
one.
omega
Okay.
because I always, whenever I talk about this with other people, I joke that like, okay, I'm a Cancer sun, so that means I'm an omega, but I'm a Scorpio moon, so that means I act like an alpha.
Okay. Fair.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Holly, what are you?
The astrology. Okay. The astrology is actually really helpful in this because, like, I have been sitting here and I'm like, okay, like, and I know this sounds weird to say, but I am so alpha, it's not funny, but I am a Sagittarius sun, Capricorn moon. And I feel like lends itself to like, I'm very territorial, but
Hmm.
I like to, go and do on my own terms. And
Yeah. It's giving cardinal energy.
it is. Yeah. Dang. Okay. Can I go back? Vinny, what are your signs? I want to see if
I'm
this
okay,
makes
so
sense.
I'm guys, I'm real bad at being witchy. I really want to
That's
be good
okay.
at witchy. Please note all of my tarot cards, okay? But I don't ever know which one of the things is which one of the things. I'm an Aquarius. Like that's my
Okay.
That's
but I don't
I
know the
don't
other and I think
remember
I've got a
my
Libra in
yeah.
there somewhere. I'm googling it right now and then I'll
But
get back.
I kind of feel like Aquarius fits what you said, though. Would you agree, Ash?
Oh, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that
No, I mean, and
Aquarius
I mean this
fits.
as the biggest compliment you could possibly imagine. Aquariuses are the absolute freaks of the zodiac, like in the best way imaginable.
So what
So,
you said tracks so
yeah.
hard.
I like yeah, okay, I'm going to figure this out though because I feel like maybe there's more to discover here that I'm neglecting. Um
Ash, I actually looked this
so
up
you go Jordan
for you,
while I
Jordan,
and
go.
I
figure out
don't
the rest of
remember
my
any of the
signs.
stuff other than the fact that I'm a Libra. I
I'm
I
trying to remember.
I know I wrote it down. It's in my desk somewhere. It would take me probably 30 minutes to find it. Um, yeah, so I'm a Libra. I think that I'm an alpha with omega tendencies. Like, I like being taken care of, but I'm also like very type A and like into like organizing things and like protecting people and like leading things. So yeah. And I took your Ash has a designation quiz that I took and it told me I was an
Very
alpha.
unofficial.
Yeah.
I
Very
took
Your
unofficial.
that.
unofficial
I
designation
did.
quiz
I also took
told
that.
me I wasn't. Told me I was an alpha. So yeah. Yeah, what does Libra mean? What does that give you? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, alpha could work.
It could work.
Yeah, I would think I would say less omega and more alpha or beta for a
Yeah,
Libra.
so my partner is a Libra, and he's very much a beta, like, in every way possible.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't know, it could go either way.
Could go either way.
I
I
could
think I took
see
a different designation
either.
quiz and I got like, oh no, what did I get? Needy beta. I think I got needy beta. Whatever. I don't know what
Oh,
that means.
yeah, I know exactly which quiz you're talking about.
She needs soup and cuddles.
We all need soup and cuddles.
Who
Even the
doesn't
alphas
need
need
soup
soup
and
and
cuddles?
cuddles.
Yeah.
Jordan, you're like Lola from Lola and the Millionaires.
Yes.
For
Yes. Oh, I could be
millionaires.
Lola. I feel like I could be Lola in general. Yeah.
You could be Lola.
She has kind of that like she's also like taking care of well, that is very
Could.
beta-ish. Yeah, maybe I'm like a hardcore beta too. I don't know. Um
You're a beta
leading
with
into
like bite.
a beta with bite, a feisty beta,
You're a
feisty
beta
beta.
with bite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All
Somebody
right.
put
We're
that on
going
a
to write this
t-shirt.
down.
beta
Seriously.
with bite.
Okay, now that we've decided that, describe your perfect nest and or pack. Like if you were going to nest, what would your perfect nest be? And I know Ash has like drawn it. You've drawn it, right? Like your perfect nest. I
Oh,
think you did.
kind of. I did like a post. Oh God, I don't even know how many years
I
ago now. I did a
remember
post where it was
this.
like my dream Omega life.
Yeah.
And I like made mood boards and I was like, this is my nest mood board and this is my pack mood board.
It was amazing.
I want to see
It was
that.
amazing.
I love
Yes.
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna
This
need
is
you
my
to find
nest
that.
right here, by the way.
Okay.
Like I would just like pile pillows on the floor in here with this.
Just stuff.
Twinkle lights, books, rainbows. Okay, go. I'm done.
It's so whimsy.
It's so whimsy. Yeah. Whimsical nest.
So whimsy. So Ash, what would yours be?
Yeah. So I think in the post I said like an attic nest, which I'm still kind of down with. I think that'd be fun. Like an
Okay.
attic nest with like lots of greens, and it would have to be full of plants because I'm a plant daddy and I can't go a day without my plants. And like, maybe like a recessed bed situation or a floor bed because I'm not getting up and down. So, just roll around on the floor. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Vinny,
Okay.
what's your ideal nest?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like Jordan, I'm kind of in it. What you can't see, I mean, you can see some of my Jellycat collection, but you don't see the giant squishmallows that are along the other wall.
Okay.
But like I just
Squishmallow
like that,
nest.
like yeah, I just would have like, just like cozy. Everything cozy and soft. Like nothing,
Plushy.
there would be no hard anything in my nest. It would be very comfortable. With probably like a little like my kingdom for a sunken living room, a la the 1960s and
Yes.
mid-century
Yes.
mod. Like if I could just have like a squishmallow filled sunken living room as like my
Mhm.
nest, that now we're talking. We're like that's like the ball pit of squishmallows.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we're at.
That's amazing. That
That
sounds
would
so perfect.
yes.
Why
I'm
don't we live
picturing like
like
an
this?
IKEA ad of just like,
It's a shame. It really is quite a shame. Like
It is.
I feel like my mental health would be so much better with a sunken living room full of squishmallows. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's
Why did we
would.
do away with sunken living rooms?
I don't know.
Like
I don't know.
why did we break jaws?
Yeah, I
I
want
don't
one.
know. It's
Oh,
one of the
oh.
great architectural mysteries of the world. I don't know. We just finished building a house, and I looked at my husband after we finished building it, and I said, "You know what would have really made this sunken living room?" And he's like, "It's too late. You're not getting it
You
now.
can't dig in.
I can't have it."
Oh my gosh.
We really
Holly, what's
fell
your ideal
as a
nest?
society. My bed.
Just your bed in general.
I say this with so much conviction. I love my bed. It is my favorite place in this world. Specifically, my bed with clean sheets,
Okay.
Mhm.
washed in, I don't know if you all have them. They're Buff City soap. Like they
Oh,
make laundry detergent and like soaps, specifically with soap from Buff City Soap, the Magnolia in my
okay.
bed. And that's all. And my fan, with my fan,
Mm, the fan is important.
with my
The
fan.
fan's important. Okay. I
And
love that.
and
So you
my Walla
actually
bottle.
have your actual nest, like you live in your nest for real. You're
Uh-huh.
living
Every
the
night.
the perfect Omega life. I love that.
Every night. And day, because I do just go get in my bed.
I love that. Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It's my turn.
It's your
I had to
question,
cough.
but
Sorry,
I was
everyone.
just gonna
I
Uh-oh.
had to cough and I didn't want to cough in anyone's face.
Oh, okay.
Ash, you are
Yes.
currently writing your first omegaverse novel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So I've actually been kind of like thinking about this world for several years. And it got to the point where like the story just had to get out of my head or I was gonna, implode. But basically it's a zombie apocalypse, omegaverse, that takes place in a near distant future on like an alternate Earth in which AI tech and the billionaire class destabilize the climate and society into total disaster. Um,
So
Huh.
very far off from anything that could possibly
Yeah,
happen.
it could never happen.
Okay.
yeah, it's very, speculative.
Nothing realistic at all.
No.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
But yeah, it's eventually going to be a 3-book series. Each book could be read as a standalone, but there's going to be an interconnecting plot regarding the origin of zombies. But yeah, that's what I've been working on, and why I haven't been reading anything at all.
Aw.
Do you have
And you've also
do you
written
have like
a
a
field guide to Omegaverse, which I have on my shelf, but it's like way at the top, so I can't grab it. So you have already written a book.
Yes, I did technically write that. Yes.
It's quite cool.
what's in that?
Um, they're
In
I
the
want to
anatomical
field
know.
guide,
drawings.
Yeah, I want to know.
there are doodles, there are charts,
Okay.
there's an entire glossary of terms,
Okay.
lots of research, like obnoxious research, honestly, which is why I know so much about like Star Trek. But yeah, it's funny because I was asked to write this. So I
Mhm.
didn't come up with this idea on my own. It was something somebody asked me to do. And they were like, "But, like, if it's only gonna be, 50 pages or something, then, like, that's no big deal." And I was like, "Oh, friend, this is about to be a 300-page book."
Wrong.
So, yeah, it ended up being a lot.
So can I purchase this to put on my
Yes,
Omegaverse shelf?
yes. Okay,
You
don't
can.
look at me.
Okay.
Oh my god, I gotta fall. It's kind of high up here. It has a pregnant man on
It's
the
just the don't
cover.
look at me.
Yeah, you see it?
It
Oh,
does have a pregnant man on the cover.
Yeah.
wait, hold on.
The
Oh,
unofficial
oh,
Omegaverse
It's
field
cute.
guide. Yeah, and there's drawings,
That's
there's
cute.
artwork, there's a nest. This might be your ideal nest. Example nests.
I have to move myself so I can see it.
Yeah. You can get it on Amazon.
Sorry.
But yeah, oh gosh, there's also not safe for work things in there as well.
Oh,
Yeah, there's
okay.
quite a few, penises.
But you need that. Like, this is
You
a
do, I mean,
field
you have to
guide,
visualize.
I
right?
was told, I don't
But
know if
yeah,
y'all
also,
saw
like,
this, when my friend Rod was reading his first Omegaverse, he drew a picture of what he thought a knot was, and it was not correct. It helps to see
To
a
know.
a real knot. So
well,
Hmm.
and, like, that's also hard because I've now read probably, like, 4 different iterations of what a knot looks like. So,
I just
again,
read one with
Omegaverse is just
something
so
different.
cool because there's so many different options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read, like, a knot near the tip, I've read a
Mhm.
mid-shaft, I've read bulbs at the bottom, a donut at the bottom. It's endless.
So that's really something you can play with,
Yeah,
literally.
you can definitely play with it.
So literally. Okay, I do have a quick question about your alien, absolutely not realistic at all Omegaverse book. Can you give us like a projected put it on your TBR date? Or is that no?
Yes.
Okay.
It is currently my goal, and I
Mhm.
don't foresee this changing because I'm on track, that it should be released on October 29th of this year.
Perfect.
Ooh.
Okay.
I really wanted a Halloween release,
Fantastic.
so that's what we're going with.
I feel
I
like
love
that's
it.
Okay.
the perfect place for zombie apocalypse
Yeah.
Omegaverse.
Yeah.
Like that is just
Swing.
primo timing. Well played.
Perfect.
Well played, my
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited. Actually, that sounds so good.
I
That's
hope so. It's equally kind of like rage at what's going on right now, and also a love letter to Earth. So I hope it comes off that way.
Am I still here?
is it inbred? You
No,
are.
this one does not have
Oh,
MPreg.
okay. I
Um,
just
Yeah,
needed
so
to
book one is it's a small pack because like I feel like big packs in the apocalypse doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So the first book is two male alphas and a female omega, and everybody's with everybody. So
okay.
that's what you can look forward to.
very exciting.
Cool.
Here for it.
I'm here for it.
Okay, Vinny. So I already talked a little bit about your Omegaverse series. Can you talk a little bit about it and tell us what you're working on right now? I should go grab your books. Hold on. There we go. It's
Um,
got
so it's taken me a minute. I kind of hit a little bit of burnout.
no.
And I haven't written a ton other than some shorts that are set in the spinoff of my Land and Sea series. And um, the Land and Sea series, like Jordan mentioned earlier, it's basically like the furthest idea of opposites attract that you can get. And so you've got your land shifter that ends up fated mates with the sea shifter, and hilarity ensues, and basically how they make things fit together. Um, and yeah, so the spin-off series for this is now called Hot and Cold. So it's a cold weather shifter and a hot weather shifter, and how they end up together. So the um, first short in that series was part of an anthology that benefited Planned Parenthood, um, and it was a stingray and a snow leopard.
Oh my
Um,
god. Love that.
and
Okay.
And then the one that the first part of it was out um in the Candy Hearts anthology that
Okay.
came out of publication, is a porcupine and an Arctic hare. And to the
Oh,
point of yeah, and so now they also have a second half of their story that is out in another charity anthology, and that'll be coming together in a novella that will be out eventually. And then I'm also writing. So what I'm writing right now is a key deer, which we're
I
going to
have to
get to
Google
why
what
I
that
write the
is.
things I write in just a moment. But a key deer, which is like a tiny little deer, like a tiny, like if you take a white-tailed deer and you just like shrink it down to pocket size, but not quite pocket size, but small. That's a key deer. And a stellar sea lion, which if you take a sea lion and you stretch it out, that's your stellar sea lion. So you've got this giant
Okay.
sea lion who happens to be the omega, and you have this tiny key deer who happens to be the alpha, and I'm playing with a little BDSM dynamic there, where we've got the small alpha, small dom, big omega, big sub, and kind of their own insecurities about them being together with those two kind of dynamics that are sort of happening.
I'm
Um,
obsessed.
Also kind of
I love
interesting
it.
that the key deer shifter Nico, who we've met, if you've read the Land and Sea series, you've actually met Garrett and you've met Nico already. And this is their story. So Nico is a baker, and
Yes. Oh, the
Garrett
baker.
is a member of the Coast Guard. So kind of playing with a lot of different societal expectations and really kind of subverting a lot of those pieces because it's what I like to do. So,
Love that. Love it.
I have a question I'm supposed to ask you, but I have a question before that question. I would like to go back to the tusks.
so I think really there's another. I think the question that you're supposed to ask me is why do I pick the shifters I've chosen to write, right? The species I've
Yes,
chosen to write.
yes. What
But
inspired
I
you
would
to
like to
write
talk
all
about
these
the
crazy animal
tusks.
shifters? Yes.
So like any good elder millennial who grew up with a Lisa Frank orca folder, there was a
We all
point
did.
in which I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
As one
Right. I mean,
does.
that's really. I mean, the academic pathway is Lisa Frank, dolphin, and orca folder to marine biologist. I mean
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
tell me I'm
No,
wrong,
that's fair.
I did. I did. I won it, and
but
it was the folder.
it was the folder. It was like, man,
Yeah.
dolphins are so pretty. Like, I'd really
The
like
folder
to
and the
study these as
backpack.
well. The reality of being a marine biologist is that you study a lot of kelp and a lot of plankton. So really, it's not as exciting as all of that. As I found out when I hit college, and quickly my Lisa Frank marine biology dreams were crushed. But I do think that part of that desire still kind of lives somewhere deep in my soul, and when you think about Omegaverse and you think about pack dynamics, which we've talked a little bit about, but we haven't really kind of really taken a deep dive into that. Like a lot of the Omegaverse stuff came out of wolf pack ideology, right? So you've got a lot of pack animals that feature heavily in shifter Omegaverse.
Mhm.
Um, and so, even the designations of alpha, beta, omega, like those kind of come from that wolf pack dynamic. And when we think about shifter omegaverse, like the wolves are really like you can throw a baseball in an omegaverse section and hit a wolf shifter book, right? But there weren't a lot of aquatic shifters. I don't know why. I just
Why
don't
not?
get it. There weren't a lot of aquatic shifters, and you'd get the odd selkie myth here and there. You'd get the uh odd merman shifter, but really like there weren't a lot of aquatic shifters. And so the way I fell into writing mpreg, which is not the question you asked, was all Amy Bellows' fault.
Who also writes
So, and
different shifters.
Jordan's probably heard this
Yes.
story. Yeah. So so there was a point in my life where I had looked at a friend of mine who's an author and I said, I will never write mpreg. And those are words I should never say, because as soon
Famous
as I
last
put a
words.
never in it, I'm going to end up doing it. But it took a couple years for that to flip on its head. But I used to joke with Amy Bellows that if I was ever going to write a shifter story, that a shifter mpreg story, that it was going to be a narwhal. And this answers your question, Holly. The answer is coming.
Yes.
Because I think I'm hilarious. And I in my head, I like as plain as day. I had this idea of a blunted version of the narwhal horn, like literally coming out of the alpha's forehead, and being used as a dildo while compassionately and lovingly and with all those cozy vibes, the alpha is kissing the omega's inner thighs, like while he basically rides his forehead. And so
I'm obsessed.
that is where that came
That
from.
happened.
And
Yeah.
so Amy Bellows, like, and literally it was a joke, and I kept making it like this like bigger thing, and I kept adding details about the whole shebang, and Amy just like she would just I have a feeling that she rolled her eyes when I would drop into her DMs with this new like narwhal horn idea update. And so she decided to do a heat giveaway back in the days of Prolific Works, when Prolific Works was book funnel. And she drops into my DMs and she goes, I'm going to do this giveaway. I think you should write your narwhal shifter story. And I was like, oh no, I really feel like my lane's going to be contemporary. Lie. But I really, at the time, I was really like, yes, contemporary is going to be my lane. And then she said, well, I dare you to write it. And well, forget it. I can't back down. I can't back down
Have to
from
do
that.
it.
So, So I said, sure, let's do it. And really, truly, when I wrote that story, I thought it was going to be this 14,000 word short for this giveaway, and I was going to get it out of my system, and then I was going to move on. And then people loved it. Like the number of DMs that I got about, we want to see the pregnancy, we want to see the rest of it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just expand it into a full length.
Sure.
And then I couldn't get the idea of Jonah, who is the Lynx character, who's the Omega character in Jonah and the Narwhal. I could not get Merritt out of my head, his roommate. And
He's
you find out that there's some stuff, talking about gender and gender dysphoria and some of those things that were going on with Merritt. And his body was kind of pulling him in one direction where he was kind of going in another, and kind of like, so really kind of playing with a lot of that ideology. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just write a second one. Maybe that'll happen. And then they went on a whirlwind epic adventure. And then I was like, well, now I have to write a third book. And then I had to write a fourth book. And then I said, okay, I'm done. And then now there's a full spin-off series coming. But
I have a spin-off series.
I can't wait.
so
I
that's
can't
a very
wait.
long-winded story. Feel free to cut and paste that however you'd like, Holly.
It was amazing.
No, I loved it. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
1, is there art?
Yes, there is art.
I think
Is there
there's
narwhal art? Because
there's like
I
There is not narwhal art. There, getting someone to do that.
that's fair.
Art, if you know of someone who will do what I
I'm
Ash.
gonna
want,
ask around.
that
Ash,
scene.
will you do it? Ash is also
I
an
think-
artist.
What?
Ash is also
You're breaking
an
up,
artist.
Jordan.
Ash, would you do it?
Ash, you wanna do cozy narwhal horn dildo fucking?
I could give it a go.
I would be here for that because I ended up. Can I show NSFW art? Is there like a disclaimer? Or I'm like, okay.
There might be, but I'll blank it out.
So, because the other thing I like to play with in that particular scene is Edwin is 46 and Jonah is 23.
Okay.
And I wanted to be realistic about refractory time. And so part of why there is a narwhal horn dildo too is because while he's waiting to get it up again, he can use his narwhal horn to continuously fuck Jonah. So it can be like on this like continuous loop where it's dick, horn, dick, horn.
Perfect.
I'm
Was
obsessed.
where I went with it.
Okay. Now my second question, which is an actual question. It's not about art, but Ash, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm begging. How do you okay, so when you're writing these animal shifter series, do you spend quite a bit of time like actually researching like mating rituals and like all of these things in these specific animals? And then
Is
do you know
there
and
research?
does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. And Jordan is making a face because she has been on the receiving end of she's asked this question in real life, and I have given her answers that I think have scarred her for life.
Oh yay.
I could be just call me the David Attenborough of sexual practices of random animals. And then thinking about how they would work together. And so, I don't know if you know this, but like whales, they don't actually knot. Right. But you can't
Okay.
have omegaverse where there's
It's
not a
very-
knot. So now I have to get creative about, well, what would a beluga whale penis look like? Like I know what it actually looks like, and it's not very fun. But how could I make that more exciting? How could I make a narwhal more exciting? Because, ironically, narwhals are some of the most understudied mammals because of their location. Like they're almost impossible to get
Right.
to. They're very reclusive. They are very difficult to find.
Yeah.
And so there's not a whole lot. Like if you look up like sexual reproduction for a narwhal, it's basically like dolphin reproduction. Like, and that's
Okay.
kind of what they've decided. It's the closest as close as we can get without going over kind of
Yeah.
situation. And so I took a lot of creative license with some of that. But to answer this question in a different way, speaking of dolphins, dolphins are like polyestrous. So they basically have a heat cycle pretty much whenever they feel like it, which is why they're horny
Okay.
bugs in the first place. I mean, we've all heard the National Geographic stories about dolphins, right? Um, but so in the third book, Dante, the Omega dolphin, has a 3-month heat cycle. Like where he's
Mhm.
basically like in a low level of heat like the entire time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the spiciest of the 4 books in the series because he's like literally in heat for 3 months in close proximity to an
Okay.
alpha. So
Cool.
yeah, I know. And
I love
if
this.
you really want to get freaky, ask me how scorpions reproduce.
Are you
Okay,
Because
gonna
tell
write
me.
that?
so basically, if I was going to write scorpion shifters, they would 100% be lesbians.
Okay.
Can you do
See
that?
also Everett and the Wolf and the owl,
Oh,
the lesbian
yeah.
owl shifters.
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
basically birds are real fun to play with gender on because of I never say this right, but the colloqua,
Cloaca?
whatever.
Cloaca.
And it's basically like all of the things, like dinosaurs. It's all of the things all in one. So like why
Okay.
couldn't you just do contact to contact and now we have alpha and omega lesbian owls that can reproduce with no penis required.
I'm
I'm just
thrilled
saying.
right now. This
This
Then
is
is so fun.
amazing.
you asked, so now scorpions.
This is
I just keep getting
Scorpions
closer.
Vinny, I'm just gonna tell you
basically
right now,
jizz
this
on
is
the
probably
floor.
gonna be Holly's clip that we're gonna use as our teaser.
Right. Excellent. Um, is it this? Is it this? This is the
Probably,
moment.
yeah.
Just warning
Um,
you. Yeah, it's
but
probably gonna be that.
that's that's fine. That's fine. I have no shame. I used to be a burlesque performer. Once you take your clothes off in a room full of people, really, there's not much there's not much further you can go. So anyway, carry on. So scorpions,
Okay.
basically, the male scorpion jizzes on the floor, and the female scorpion basically rolls around in it, and voila, baby scorpions,
I feel
basically.
like you could do
So I'm like,
interesting things with that.
why couldn't we have lesbian scorpions? Like, doesn't that make perfect sense? Like, can't you just see that?
Just
Like, I'm gonna
rolling
let your
around in
mind
it.
fill in the blanks. I will never write scorpions because I said never. I'm screwed. I'm gonna end up writing lesbian scorpions.
I dare
She
you.
dared herself, and she's a
I just
millennial.
dared you.
Someone came over.
So, at any rate, yes. That was a very, very long answer, Holly, to yes, I know way too much about the reproductive habits of every animal that is in one of these stories.
You are single-handedly all of the searches for narwhals.
Probably.
Probably.
92%.
It's
Definitely.
solid. Yeah, it's solidly between 89 and 98%. 100%.
Okay.
I
I'm having so much fun.
I know. Oh my god. I think that's all our questions because we asked our last question first. So with that, thank you both for joining us today. This was amazing. I feel like we got like really deep and really I don't even know. I think we nailed
Silly,
this.
silly. We got a little silly.
Yeah.
We got a little silly
I
after
know
we
so
got
much
a little
more
deep.
about animals
A lot of things about
and their
animals.
reproductive habits.
And yeah.
I know. I feel like I came into this conversation just like absolutely blind, and now I'm seeing the light. So
This is
thanks,
very
guys.
enlightening.
I'm, I feel, I'm so glad to be here. This has been so fun.
We're going to awaken people with
Okay.
this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But if anyone wants to check back next week, Jordan and I are having a really fun conversation with Serena Bowen
Yeah.
about all things hockey. And
The
I don't
opposite
know
of
what
this.
else because Jordan's writing the script. The opposite of this.
Yeah.
You know what?
Thank
I
you
don't
for
know. I
joining
mean,
us.
can we? You know what? I feel like we should try to convince Serena Bowen to write Omegaverse.
One can dream.